Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Spirit of EQ podcast. My name is Eric Pennington, and joining me today, as always, is Jeff East with the Spirit of EQ. Hey, Jeff, how are you?
I'm doing great, Eric, and I hope everyone else is too.
So today we have an episode that I have been really excited about doing for a long time. And our guest today is Mr. Quincy Williams. We're so glad to have him in studio. Quincy, welcome.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks for having me, guys.
And as I mentioned to Quincy off air, and you and the audience know this, I prefer our guests to tell the world themselves who they are, what they do, where they're from, and do it in such quick fashion that we can get to this conversation. But Quincy, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself, and we're excited.
Hey, guys. It's Quincy Williams. I am from originally Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm in the health and wellness space. I do health and wellness for the Columbus Metropolitan Housing Authority, and love what I do. I also have my own business, my own fitness business and consulting business, which keeps me pretty active. I have two kids, 8 and 9. Hey, Dominic and Kendall. And I also do music. So I just basically I live my life doing what's in my heart.
And Quincy, that's great. And I would tell the audience as well, Quincy is being very modest, and he's holding back a little bit. But hopefully, as we go along, we'll unpeel and, or I should say, we will peel the onion back further. And one of the things, as I mentioned, about being so excited about doing this, Jeff, was that Quincy and I have met for lunch and coffee over probably the last 3-4 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Pandemic threw a little bit of a wrench in that series and that cadence, but and we've had some really great conversations, and that's one of the big reasons why I wanted you to come here today. I am very, very passionate about the 4 pillars, and you may remember in some of our conversations, and Jeff, I think you have as well, is that the 4 pillars of your spiritual health, your physical health, your mental health, and your emotional health. Mm-hmm. And how all of them are vitally, vitally important to not only living a great life, but almost equally as important, influencing others to live a great life. However, when you look at America, as great a country as we live in, there's this great irony for the amount of wealth, the amount of access to information that, quite frankly, right, Quincy, I mean, I can get on and do something in Google and I can get the answer in what? 5 seconds?
5 seconds. Easy.
We're not in that great a shape. And I know, again, some of our conversations, the pandemic and its impact, and when you drill down into some of the statistics around things like comorbidities, and you go, wait a minute, no, this can't be. We've got the information, we've got the wealth, but it seems like we're moving backwards.
Right.
So, first thing I wanted to ask you, this can't be just because we woke up one day and decided, I don't care about my physical health. Something has to be going on. So what do you think is one of the connections, maybe if you want to give another, more than one, the connection between how we think and doing this thing called exercise and paying attention to our diet and all of that kind of thing? What's one thing that leaps out to you as a connection?
It's a good question. I feel like it's almost a catch-22 because just like you said, we've been able to generate information within seconds, a matter of seconds. And so not only have we been able to generate information, but we've also been able to find solutions, like easy fix, solutions, I feel. And a lot of that has been, kind of what it's a great thing, but it's also kind of a detriment to what we have. I mean, you look at we're the wealthiest country, but we're also the unhealthiest, and it's because of those things. We have access to so many resources that we kind of forget that our body still needs that movement, that action. You look at different celebrities, entertainers. They live a different life than what the average person lives. And we're trying to keep up with that, getting quick fixes, different things like that.
Okay,
and
I got to stop you there because you draw a great conclusion. So I see Mark Wahlberg, and I see that dude is in shape. Man, oh man.
I was thinking The Rock, but yeah.
Okay.
No.
I mean, yeah, right? Interchangeable at some
Right.
level. I mean, are you saying, Quincy, that maybe we look at that and go, I want to be that, and it just happened to them overnight?
Yeah. And we look at, okay, what are they doing, or what is the fastest way that we can get there? And a lot of times it skips the discipline. It skips the work that you have to do in order to become that.
Mm-hmm.
And I also feel like it's not, it's, and we can talk about this a little bit more, but if it's not part of your identity, then you're not going to move towards it. You know what I mean? And so we look at how unhealthy we are as a society. A lot of it, like we said, a lot of it is because of the access to information that we have. It's so easy to get from point A to point B, but it's not sustainable.
So, I think I didn't catch it initially, but if I can get an answer to my question in 5 seconds, is it my belief potentially? I'm thinking that I can just go to the gym tomorrow, and then the next day I look like Mark Wahlberg.
Right.
Something.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. I mean, I talk to a lot of clients, and that's, and they don't know. We don't know what we don't know. I mean, I hear I'm coming up on this vacation. I need to lose 20 pounds in a month. And it's not going to happen,
So how do you break that news to them? I mean, not to go off on a tangent, but I mean, that idea that somehow, I mean, and I guess I should ask you, you've had clients that actually.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about the concept of brushing your teeth.
Okay.
Right. If you haven't brushed your teeth in a year, let's hope that hasn't happened. But
right.
If you haven't brushed your teeth in a year, and then there's all types of things that happen. Build up, plaque, just enamel deteriorate, all of it. But then all of a sudden something happens and you say, hey, I need whiter teeth in a month. And you start brushing your teeth for a week, 2 weeks, and you don't see any progress. What typically happens? You give up. You quit. I can't do this.
Wow.
And so the perception is, okay, I can. They see, most society, us as Americans, we see actors, entertainers, athletes. We see just people. We see people go from point A to point B. They put the work in, and then we look at that and it's like, I'm going to do that. But we don't look at what it takes to do that. We don't look at the mindset that it takes to lose 20 pounds.
Yeah.
And so that's just one of those things when I have to break news to clients or potential clients. It's not, it's not going to happen. Right. It's more of those things. Like let's look at a more realistic term, and let's look at how this thing really works.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if we can start to break down the process of what really happens to lose weight, then people start to get more of an understanding of the process and how long it's going to take, and just make more real or set more realistic expectations.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've got a question for you. Do you think that the ideal has been set too high? Like you mentioned Mark Wahlberg or The Rock. If you go back and look at athletes in the 60s or 70s, they were very, very fit, but they didn't have that so defined or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think because we've raised that mark so high that it's discouraging to people?
That's a great question. I think yes and no. I think we look at different different figures, role models or whatever you want to call them, and I honestly think it's more of a perception. It's, do you admire what they're doing? Do you admire how they're doing things, or do you want to be them? And I think that's a question that everyone has to ask. What are you striving for, really? When we talk about setting the bar high, I think that it really comes down to your environment and your surrounding.
Mm-hmm.
We look at social media. We look at, where we're spending our time, where we're managing our time. And a lot of that has to do with how you respond or how you're going to set the bar when it comes to your health. And I think that's another thing. We kind of misinterpret what health or what fitness or what that really looks like from an individual standpoint. It's not, it's not an all-in-one thing. So,
well, when you look at, just kind of going back to this, because we're talking about a lot in many senses, Jeff, these neural pathways, right? These things that our brain develops, and it's their pathway of how we respond, how we react. I mean, we've mentioned this on the show many times, right? This idea that it really is our brain showing how marvelous it is in setting us into these efficient ways.
Right.
But our brain is not our loving mother or father who says, "Oh, Eric, I don't think that's a good idea. You're going to end up regretting that in 10 years." Our brain's going to just take whatever I say,
Yeah.
Josh Friedman from 6 Seconds has a video that is it's priceless, and he's basically talking about giving a lesson about how the brain works. And he said something it always it just stops me in my tracks when I think about it. It said he basically described it. I'm poorly paraphrasing, so Josh, if you're listening, I'm sorry. That though your brain can get really good at the things that really produce positive outcomes, it can get really good at the negative stuff too.
Right.
And I would imagine in the audience, I know here in the studio, we can think of examples of people we know, and even in our own history where we go, I was really good at that really unhealthy thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think it's it has to do with what we're telling ourselves too. That plays a big role.
Our own personal narrative.
Correct.
Okay.
What we're telling ourselves inside our head. Those things have a direct impact on, our those habits, because what we tell ourselves, then we start to believe it, and then once we start to believe it, it becomes our identity, which forms the habits. Right.
So would you say that person, and I know we'll touch more on this as we go, who comes to you as a potential client, and maybe in their past they heard those voices or that narrative that you never are able to complete things.
Mm-hmm.
You're a failure. You're not as good as you just need to. They come to you with that, right?
Right.
And when you encounter that, how do you handle that? When you see that they're sort of maybe in some ways living on that old narrative that says you can't.
Mm-hmm. It's what I'm still learning, and it's practice, but you can change your perception in a second, basically, and so we get wrapped up in, and I think all of us have some form of self-negative talk. So,
Yep.
I feel, when these things happen, it's being attentive to ask a different question, ask them a different question. So when I can't do this, or when they're in the gym, or even if it's the initial consultation, a lot of times there's that fear, there's the apprehension, but the real win is them making the first step. You've already made the first step and reaching out for help,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a huge thing. So by doing that, you've already had a win. And then I find myself doing this. I think a lot, obviously, but
I want to come back to that too, because we talked about this once before. But go ahead.
And so a lot of times, when there's negative self chatter that goes on in my head, I have to step back and ask different questions. Like, you're never good enough. Wait a minute. Look at where you are right now. This didn't happen by chance. This didn't happen by fate. And I'm willing to go on record that most people listening right now, they have those thoughts. But if you stop and just take a moment and realize and recognize where you are in that space, you can tend to first deep breaths, right? And usually a lot of times when you can just reframe it and say, hey, I've done this, you know, I don't want to use the term I've got a roof over my head, but you know, when you start to break things down into their simplest form and you start to realize your wins to get you where you are right then and there, a lot of that negative self-talk kind of goes away.
We talked about this off air, and I thought it was really powerful because I've heard it from other leaders, thinkers, right? Is that we need to be talking to ourselves more.
Right. Absolutely.
That we don't have enough conversations with ourselves.
Right.
Enough.
Yeah.
And when I think about that, I think there's this, I can't give credit for it, but it's this idea that when you are encountering this sort of storm of negative thought, and maybe even positive thought, depending on what your situation is that you should stop and ask yourself, is this true?
Mm-hmm.
And then after you answer it, is it really true?
Right.
So think about it in the positive. I'm the greatest speaker on the planet. Is that true?
Right.
Well, yes, of course it is. Is it really true?
Maybe
Okay.
for you.
Right?
Maybe.
Okay,
No.
right. I pay you well, Quincy. But here's the thing. Okay, right. But let's look at the negative again, which is the one that most people are prone to go to.
Right.
I'm not capable of getting in shape.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is that true? Well, yes, because my dad or my mom or I tried. Okay, is it really true?
Right. It's more of a label that you're already putting on yourself.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And once you label it, that's your brain, just like you said, your brain says, yeah, that's what we do. That's who you are.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I want to put myself on the spot.
Oh, I love vulnerability. Here he
Yay.
goes. All right, Jeff.
Never mind.
I'll do it too.
I need to lose weight. I know that. I started doing the intermittent fasting. Doctor approved it, loved it. And over the first 6 weeks, I lost about 20 pounds.
Nice.
And then I got totally away from it.
Okay.
I just restarted about a week ago, so I'm starting to make gains. What would you tell me if you were working with me to keep doing it?
It's everyone's gonna have a lapse, right? You just don't want a lapse to turn into like relapse. Right?
Mine was a relapse.
So, and I look at it as, I mean, it's work. Well, I relapse. You know, I have those days or moments or weeks, you know, even where I don't have it. I don't want to work out. But, you know, it's almost like we said, it works when you work, number one, and it works even more when it becomes who you are, you know. So that's not an overnight thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be an overnight thing. It's going to be something that's got to constantly be in the forefront. You think about it kind of like work. Every day you don't feel like you want to go to work. You know, there are going to be days, there's going to be moments where you're not going to feel like coming to work, but you have to, you know. You have those days where it's like, hey, I'm taking the day off, you know. And that's, if you can think about your fitness routine like that, it's a necessity. It has to be a part of who you are, but it doesn't have to be perfect, you know. I can't remember what I was reading, but it said lost days hurt more than just little. So basically, just don't put up a zero. You know, if there are going to be days where you have, say, I assign 6 exercises and 30 minutes of cardio, and you look at me like I have 3 heads, like I'm not doing that today. It's okay. It's totally okay. As long as you don't put up that zero. Don't do nothing. Do something, you know, because that's something that if you look at it from a positive standpoint, versus you can't look at it as I only did 10 minutes of cardio. It needs to be reframed and reshaped as, man, I didn't have it in me today. I almost didn't do anything, but I went ahead and did 15 minutes of cardio. I feel a little better. I can move on with my day.
Okay.
You know, so don't beat yourself up too much. It's just, it's going to happen, but just make sure that one day doesn't spill over into a habit, because then your brain says, yeah, we don't work out anymore.
Because in some ways, Jeff, isn't that kind of that idea of the dualistic versus non-dualistic?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you take a non-dualistic approach to it, then you can see, well, there is the option of I did something versus the dualistic that says you did it or you didn't do it.
Right.
And we know it's much more vibrant than that, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So another thing around the brain, which I've encountered personally in my exercise approach, and that is the benefits of physical exercise for your brain. I know there's a lot of talk and a lot of research and things written about the importance of sleep and how it helps the brain. You know, we talk about, there's things about food and how it impacts the brain. My goodness, I even heard a podcast where they were talking about now they're researching your dental health and how it has a connection to dementia and Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Because a number of people who don't take care of their teeth, and like that example you gave earlier, someone who's just, I just don't do it. That stuff is directly connected to.
Yeah.
And it just blew my mind.
It all goes back to the brain, right?
Yeah. So I know that physical exercise, I know that I remember this, they talk about endorphins and things like that. What are some of the things you would say doing physical exercise does to help our brains as far as brain health?
Well, one, it's, there's, the brain is able to adapt to any circumstance, right? It's that neuroplasticity. So the exercise, study and research is showing right now that that's what it improves in terms of reshaping your brain, making it stronger, making more positive changes. That definitely helps. There's a mind-muscle connection as well. So there are different. My training isn't traditional. It's more, it's more functional training, basically. If you want to call it, that. That's the buzzword for it. So a lot of times I'll have different. We'll say from an exercise standpoint, I'll have you do things where you have to stop and think about it. So just imagine you're in a plank. Let's say you're just in a plank, but I want you to move that plank. A lot of people will take their, if I'm going to have you move it to the left, most people take their left arm and then their right and then move their legs. That's the easiest, the fastest way to get to that. But if I were to tell you, I want you to move this plank only using your left arm and your left leg at the same time, your body has to stop and think about that. Like, wait, what are you doing to me? So it kind of it makes your brain have to work a little bit in terms of the mind muscle connection. It's also one of the basic things where when we're talking about exercise and training, basically when we're doing that, we're breaking down the muscle so that it can get stronger, right? So it's build and destroy, basically, to build. To build, you've got to destroy to build, basically. So it's the same thing with your brain. Your brain does the exact same thing when you take it through a workout. Have you ever felt worse after a workout?
Oh yeah.
Well, from a mental standpoint, like, once you accomplish a workout, do you feel like most of the time you feel good about that workout? You feel like you'll feel bad
the
during
times that I have is when I knew that I was not using proper form, but I pushed through anyway.
Yeah.
That's when I kind of get into that. You knew it, you should have, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But to your point.
That's another topic too. Yeah.
But what you're saying is that you got to the end of it and you feel a sense of like, I did it.
Yes, absolutely. Your brain kind of gives you those endorphins, but it's one of those things where it's reshaping also. So
wow.
I think that's when we talk, you hear about it all the time. Your brain is the most brilliant thing on the planet, most brilliant organism on the planet.
Yeah. Wow. So, if I hear you right, Quincy, I can improve my brain health function when I exercise.
Correct. You can improve your brain function through exercise. You can improve it through things like puzzling, things like music, but the quickest way to improve that is through movement.
Yeah. So there is a term, and this is where you professional certified gurus of exercise will know more than me, but the term muscle confusion. Does that have any play with the brain?
Sure. Yeah. So I'll put some of the a typical situation that happens.
Right.
So I'll go in and I'll have clients who, prior to training, or even when they're working out with me, they'll get into a routine where it's pretty easy, right? So usually, a lot of times, we'll get into a routine and we'll stick to what we know.
Yep.
So when you think about that, that's like teaching your body the same math problem. It's not going to grow. So a lot of times that happens. I've done bicep curls. I'm going to use that as just as an example. I've done bicep curls. I've done lunges, squats. I do those every day. I do 30 of them every day, and now I'm not getting any results. So that happens typically. That happens a lot, and it's, again, you're teaching your body that same math problem. Hey, what's 1 + 1? Yeah, I know this. I know this, so I'm not going to do anything about that, But the term muscle confusion, that's basically, you're taking that program and you're pretty much ditching it and giving your body something that it doesn't know. It's basically not 1 + 1. We're giving it algebra now. Yeah. And so that's going to be the time where, you start to feel, within the next day or two, you start to feel the soreness. You'll feel a little uncomfortable while you're doing the exercise. Your body's a little, apprehensive. You're not sure of what you're doing. So
those are the plank example that you gave.
Correct. Yep. So we're normally doing normal planks, right? We know how to do that for the most part. But if we take that and we start moving it in different directions that our body's not used to, then our brain says, okay, what am I supposed to do with this? So a lot of the wear and tear that is necessary for your body to grow, that is that muscle confusion. That's typically what's happening during that time.
Okay. All right. Very nice. Very nice. So when we think about, I want to go back to maybe the person who is, and I use this example with you. We were getting Ray Ray's barbecue.
Oh my God!
In the alley
Ray's,
there,
yes.
Which is a great brisket. It's just unbelievable. So
if you're ever in the Franklinton area, please,
Franklinton,
definitely
definitely want to check that place out. Oh my gosh! But
health food, right?
Yeah,
but
food. You know what? All right,
good
so
food.
That's a good one because this really kind of leads to it, right? I think sometimes people think, Quincy, that, well, if I commit to getting in better shape or to start exercising, I have to be regimented. It needs to start at this time, and it needs to end. I must eat this. I can't eat that, and if I ever eat that, then the world comes to an end.
Right.
It's not an all or nothing game, right?
No, not.
How
not
much
at
did
all.
Ray Ray's barbecue help your mental health?
Oh my God, I felt great afterwards. Right. I always say there's not really a such thing as a bad food. It's all about what you're doing with it, what you're doing after it, why you're eating. Those different things, and if you can kind of separate or put into context what it is you're doing at that moment, then I don't think that you have anything too much. I love chocolate chip cookies. Love chocolate chip cookies. I
Glass of milk?
No, I overdo it. Heavy whipping cream.
He's a professional.
I am a professional cookie eater. But that's one of my weaknesses. And I know there are times, and this kind of goes back to the relapse or lapse. There are times where I shouldn't be eating whatever, Ray Ray's or cookie or pie or whatever the case may be. But I know in that moment, okay, I got a decision to make. I can either, like, after this is done, because I am going to eat it. After I'm done with this, I can go about my day, which typically happens, or I can work it off. I'm not a person, I typically don't eat and then go work out. because I feel like that's training my brain that food is bad. So that's just my personal opinion.
Because of the relationship with food.
You're right, exactly. If I'm going to eat something and then go burn it off, I'm teaching my body like I have to go work out every time I eat, basically. So that's just how I see it. I don't want to train my body in that regard. But I will tell myself, okay, I've had X amount of cookies. I already worked out. Tomorrow I'm going to have to double up a little bit, or I'll double up for the next few days. And especially if I have a goal. But if there's really no goal in mind and I'm just eating because I really like the cookie, then there's nothing to worry about, Yeah. Again, if once health and fitness and exercise becomes a part of your identity, you're going to do the work to, keep yourself healthy. So,
well, do you believe that most people get into trouble when it's these behaviors that are over a long period of time? Because to your point, and I know I've had my windows of time where I really loved those fill in the blank, and I felt like anytime I go to the grocery store, I'm going to get those because I want those and I like those, and on and on. Because I know that the research will show that the damage done is typically done over
time.
Over time, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's where you're right. People get into trouble with that. But if we really think about it, it's all about our habits, that we're really talking about.
Yeah.
If it becomes a part of our identity as far as health and fitness, then incremental steps are going to be made. It's not going to be a overnight type of, it's not going to be an overnight type of change.
Do you find those people who are in that overnight change deal find it not sustainable, meaning they can't keep it going? Or
yes, I do. I've been proven wrong a lot of times, though. There are people who start off that it may be just a short-term quick fix, but depending on what happens
something
at that
really
particular time, something gets turned on, and then they start to shape and their beliefs and their values around health and fitness. And once you do that, then the magic starts to happen. No one, like, you just, whether you're early riser and you work out in the morning, you'll just wake up and start to do it. If you feel like your day's not complete if you don't do something, So
because we think about emotions, right? And I'm going to go back in time. Many of our audience members, Quincy, know that I used to be a corporate guy, and in the height of that, at my pinnacle, I remember going to visit my doctor, my primary care, and it was like a normal annual physical deal, and he just a wonderful guy, and got to the subject of exercise, and at that time, I wasn't doing anything. I actually believed that because I was so successful in my corporate life that it covered over all of the missteps and the lack of. You talk about how your brain can work. In my brain, I thought, well, you're a super successful dude. Just because you don't exercise doesn't mean anything. You're fine.
Yeah, you'll be okay.
You'll be all right.
Yep.
And I remember him looking me in the eye, and he has this way about him. He's still my family physician. And he says, Eric, you need to be doing some type of exercise every day. And I remember looking at him going, there's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way, Doc. And I remember being in my head so dismissive of that idea. And I look back over it and I can go, well, what was I feeling then? I was feeling this immense amount of pressure, anxiety in some levels around, well, I can't turn down my volume in the career because if I do that, I could lose. And if I lose, then they'll know. I mean, you know where it goes, right?
Yep.
So for me, it was a vital thing to go, that might be the approach for some people, Doc, not me.
Yeah.
Right?
And it had nothing to do with the fact that you couldn't exercise.
That's a great point because you were right. You're totally on. I had been the guy who start 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
quit for 3, begin again, stop for longer periods, begin again. I mean, I was this total inconsistent. So to your point, yes, I could have done it.
You could have, yeah.
I could have done something.
Right. And that's the thing with society. We can do anything. Anything. We just have to figure out what it is, and that takes some time. It takes some time, it takes some reflection, it takes all of it. But once you get down to the root of what is really bothering you, what are you really afraid of,
Yes, because and the work that we do at Spirit of EQ, this idea about emotional literacy. What is that fear? What is it saying to you? What is the message there? Because my fear was, if I don't keep up this intense pace, I could end up getting replaced. I could end up losing.
Yeah.
And at that time, I had no clue about any of this. For me, it was like, do you know what my name is? Do you know where I work? Do you know what my position, my title, all that? But as I look back and I go, if I could have whispered into the ear of that Eric, I would have said, why don't you pay attention to what you're afraid of?
Yeah.
What's at the root of that?
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. There are probably a number of people in the audience that I don't want to go there. I don't want to address the fear. I don't want to address those because it has bad memories. It takes me not only to 10 years ago, it takes me back to my childhood, and then I got to...
Yeah, unpacking is a lot, right?
It is. And I'm certainly hope that I'm not diminishing the weight of going on that journey to look at, well, where does it all begin? Where did that come from? However, fast forward, my approach and thoughts about exercise are totally different now. And I know in shows like ours, Quincy, Jeff, we've talked about it. I mean, we do dispense a lot of advice. But if there's one thing that I have found in my life that typically gets me to go, whoa, wake up, this is real, it's when I've been knocked down. And when my corporate career came to an end, phone stopped ringing. Nobody was patting me on the back. No one was saying, you're the one to watch. I decided to go out. Oh, I can run. I was a cocky you-know-what. I can do this. This is not a big deal. And Quincy, I maybe ran for maybe a quarter of a mile, and I felt like I was going to have a heart attack. And it was as if I still remember the street I was on. I remember what I was wearing, and I remember where I stopped. I mean, I can see it as clear as day. And it was as if I realized, this is your time now.
Yeah.
You're going to need to make a choice.
Yep.
That's been my modus. I know everybody has their own way of getting to the place where they go, I get it now.
Yeah. And that, I appreciate you sharing that story. I feel like, and that's the thing we had talked about earlier, where a lot of inspiration comes from. And most society, their inspiration is external. So there's like what we call it, the external locus of control. So what happened with you, it sounds like, is like you said, you had a moment where, and you had to make a choice, and I think that's where a lot of people will define their success, is when they decide for themselves, not for anyone else, that this is what I need to do, and your body's it talks to you, that's why you have to talk to yourself, because your body talks to you, like, it'll tell you if something's in pain, hey, we're not doing something. I need help. I need attention, alert, basically.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's better to talk to your body before it starts talking to you, right?
Yeah.
But that was, when I first started my journey, it was funny because I can't remember, I was early 20s, so September 10th, 2001. This is a Monday. I was working for General Motors, and I had a lot of my coworkers. They were working out. I had just really started getting into fitness, health, all of it. So, working at General Motors, I was on the line. just passing time, shooting screws and everything, and just reading a lot. And I got into health. I got into fitness. I started studying it. And I remember going to the gym September 10th, 2001. No, I didn't go to the gym. I got sick. I got sick on that Sunday. I had like food poisoning or something. So I didn't go that day. But I went Tuesday. Tuesday was September 11th, 9/11. And I was in Dayton, Ohio at the time. And, there's Wright Pat there, military.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Everything shut down that day except for General Motors. Like we were running. They're like, you're not going anywhere. You're going to run these trucks. Nope. No, it was weird. But so there was also another gym that was still open. Everything had just happened, so no one knew what to do, and I still went. So it was Tuesday, 9/11. I went to the gym, and that was 2001, and I've been going the whole time,
Wow.
But I noticed through that my perspective changed a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
So there were times where I would go to the gym and I would have so much external motivation from things like other guys telling you, "Oh, you look great,"
Mm-hmm.
you're gaining, you look good,
Mm-hmm.
from females, like all the external,
All those confirmations.
yeah,
right?
it was all out there, and so that kind of grabbed my attention for a while. I remember when I had my son in 2011. It was rough. It was a rough time. I was unemployed briefly for I think it was about 2 months, but it felt like 2 years,
Yeah.
So there was a lot going on in that moment. But I remember looking at a picture of myself and not knowing who that guy was. I had gained it was close to 20 pounds. It may not be, much, but I felt the effects,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, it's time to do something about it. And so that was a moment where I made a deal with myself and, not to lose the weight, but just to get healthy.
To get healthy.
So
Yeah.
if we can, I think a lot of people's goals, they get defined by, I want to tone up, or I need to just lose 10 pounds. Like I don't know where that comes from, but like
It's common.
it is very common, and I think my job as a coach is not just to help you meet that goal, but really define, well, why do you want to lose 10 pounds? Why do you feel like if you were just to lose 10 pounds, everything would be better? But what's the meaning behind that 10 pounds,
So Quincy, we talked about some of those motivations and the catalyst, to like, hey, it's time to change. Could you talk a little bit about what are some of the emotions that you've seen in the time with your clients? What do they come to especially at the beginning, what do they come to the table with that you've observed and heard?
So, it's all types of things, but the main one is it's to impress somebody. And I feel like a lot of us that's what it kind of comes down to sometimes. So for me, like we said, my motive was, okay, I want to be able to impress this person. I want to be able to lift this much weight. I want this person to recognize me, and I feel a lot of times those are the motivations that that bring people to.
Now, I'm cutting you off, but does that kind of connect to, I want to impress this person because I'm afraid they won't like me or love me if I don't look a certain way?
Yeah, it's simple as that. Fear of what other people think of me.
Oh, wow.
It's a big thing, and it could start off as something where you make a statement where I want to look good in this suit, or I want to look good in this dress.
Yep.
Well, what does that mean?
Right, because nobody says, well, the reason why I want to look good in this suit is because nobody will love me unless I look very handsome and put together. Is that
right? That's kind of, no one's going to say that, but what is it
behind it?
Right. What is the?
Okay.
Yeah. There's a little bit of that, and I feel like addressing whatever the motive is the main thing. But a lot of times it's people just want to look better. People want to look good naked. That's another thing.
Right.
When it all comes down to it, people have we all have these vague, I want to say these vague fitness goals, and there's nothing wrong with them. There's absolutely nothing wrong with them. I think at the end of the day, it's important to know, or it's important to establish what's the goal long term.
Are you saying that because getting in shape for the opinion of others can only sustain you for so long? Am I close there?
Correct. So if you're doing it for the sake of appearance for others, then it's not a part of your identity, right?
Going back to what you said about
right.
Yeah.
Yep. So it all goes back to that. And if it's not part of your identity, then it's not going to be sustainable. Now, it doesn't have to be all I want to do is lift weights, or all I want to do is work out or be healthy, but there's a framework. There's a frame that you can put it in, instead of saying I need to lose 20 pounds or whatever the case may be, because I feel like that's a negative connotation. Also, you can reframe it as I'm a healthy person or I'm a fit person. If you can start to say that to yourself, then you start to take action on that, right? That becomes part of who you are, part of what you're doing, part of your everyday life, And so I feel like if you can establish that, if things become who you are, then you'll more than likely have success with them.
Yeah.
I constantly talk about, it has to be a part of who you are.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So we think about what you're doing. You left, the corporate world, and now you're doing, this is part of who you are.
Yes.
Right. And you probably wouldn't have it any other way. This is what you want to do. You'll wake up and build. You'll wake up and figure out, how do I connect with people in regards to their emotional intelligence? How do I make an impact on that? And so I think it's foundation. It's a fundamental.
That's the same thing, though, work, entrepreneurship, business, and all that it's multi-layered in its motivations, but it's like, even with me and my exercise, because as I said to you, and I mentioned this to our producer Brett about my years in the desert, right? My over the last close to 20 years, I haven't missed a beat as it relates to my exercise.
Yeah.
But to your point, it is a part of who I am now. It is no longer if I get to it, I get to it. It's no longer I don't need to push myself. It is really one of those things where it is now a part of me. Right? And I get it. 2 years from now, 5 years from now, I may not be able to run, but I can do something.
You can do something, yeah.
Okay, I may not be able to have the same pace, but I might be able to jog.
Yes.
And if I can't jog, I can walk.
Right.
Because that was the early on thing and it's the way I'm wired. I got into this mindset. You would have thought I was training for the Olympics. I can stay at it. I just stay at it. And I had a wise mentor, coach, who said, okay, take a step back and look over the horizon, Eric. You want to have a diversity of different things that you can do with your exercise.
Correct.
Because the reality is, there might be a day where your body's going to say, we can't do that anymore. And if that's the only thing you had, you're going to be bummed.
Yep.
You're potentially going to be a little depressed, and you might decide, nah.
Right. So I'll give you an example, because that happens so often, right? And so I've gone through so many different waves with fitness. Yes, I was being modest earlier.
See, I knew it. It proves that I know you.
So I used to do fitness competitions, right? And I was a physique competitor. So
Okay.
I had a coach, and I started training for fitness competitions and started winning. Like, great, this is awesome, And what that did was, I didn't want to. I stopped competing after a while, but what it did was after I won, I started to identify myself with that person. I'm Quincy. I win fitness competition. I have to have muscle all the time. I have to work out this certain way. I have to, basically, people saw me as that. So I had to live as that. And so it changed all of my workout. It even changed a little bit of my training, but it also helped me arrive to this where I'm at right now, because I saw so many people saying, "Oh, I want to do what you're doing. I want to look like you. Can you?" It's like, wait, what? What do you really want to do though? And do you know what this take, so I started having to peel back layers for other people, and it helped me understand where people's mindset derives, where they arrive in their mindset on some things when it comes to health and fitness. And so I had to, I ended up quitting competing and started focusing on more training, more health and fitness, a lot more for emotional health too. And I think what tends to happen with people is just kind of how you were saying, I want to run. There may not be a day where you can run. So you can't, even though health and fitness and wellness is important, you can't and you need it to be a part of your identity. You can't, get too attached to it, because things are going to change, and it's going to command you to, how do I say this? It's all going to come back to, you have to reflect. It's all going to come back to where you have to do some real self-reflection in regards to what you want your health to look like.
Because that comes back, and we've talked about it before in prior shows, this sort of defining about who you are and what's important to you. And I almost kind of go, man, what kind of age are we living in where that has to be like explicit in conversation?
Right.
I mean, you would go, of course you need to know who you are and what's important to you. But
society doesn't tell us that.
No, it doesn't. And
society
that's where I was
says
going. We were doing a presentation to a group, and a lot of our work is certainly overt, and it's specific to competencies and why it happens and how all that. But there's also Jeff, you know this. We get a sense about things. We get a feel of the room. We listen closer to those conversations. And in this one particular one, happened some time ago. It's like it was clear to me there was this. I mentioned muscle confusion. It's like It's like, who am I confusion? Because you could tell some of it was derived from social media.
Yeah.
Well, the reason why I'm doing these things is because all of my friends are doing these things. And if I want to appear like I am, then I must.
You have to. Yeah.
Okay. And you fill in the blank, right? And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, no, this needs to be explicit. We need to say it more. Have you defined who you are? Have you defined what's important to you? Don't think about who you see on social media. Don't think about your coworkers. Don't think about your career. All these narratives and all these dogmas that come at you. You got to clear that out, because otherwise I think we end up making these mistakes. Go, well, of course I'm going to go hire Quincy because Robert, Bill, and John, man, you see how much muscle they put on themselves? Yeah. I got to help you. Now, I love how you connect this idea of around emotion, mental with the physical, right? Because how many trainers just go, okay, all right, you want to get like John? Let's go.
You're right.
Okay, we'll see you in the gym tomorrow, and then here's the program. But those trainers, right? I'm not trying to condemn them, or it just they're collecting a fee.
Right.
It's a transaction.
Yeah, it's a transaction.
Right? And one of the things I've loved about you, Quincy, is that there's a heart behind the work. And yes, I know there's work. And yes, you could get as cut as whoever.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get cut like him because you're just chasing, that's not. Wait,
Yeah.
who are
you going to be happy?
Yeah.
Like,
Is that really the thing that you want?
Yeah, I think there's this thing with training. I don't really write programs anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Primarily because anything can happen. Anything can happen. I can have the perfect program for you for the whole week, but something happens where you're sleeping wrong and you can't move your neck.
Right.
And I can't say, you got to do it. You still got to do it. It that makes no sense. So it's it's all about how how is your body feeling at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not suggesting that you shouldn't write programs or anything like that.
Right.
But I feel like for me, 20 years, something like that. So you build up a knowledge bank, but there's also some things that change on a daily basis. So I can't expect you to do X that I wrote out yesterday when you're
you're adding flexibility to how you train.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot behind that, but there's also the people who you have to find out. You have to have it match your identity, and I don't want to sound like that has to be the first thing that happens before you can have
do
success.
Anything.
Yeah.
Right.
There are things where you can be in a situation where your body had talked to you and something happened and you have to go to the doctor, just like you had mentioned, and the doctor says, hey, it's time for you to make some changes, and you may not know how to go there or how to get there. You hire a coach. Hey, doc says I have to lose weight. I've never worked out in my life. I don't know what I'm doing. I hate exercise. I hate exercise. That's a big statement, So but there are a lot of people who are in this place. I hate exercise, but I have to do it. I hate exercise, but I want to live. I got it. And so now the mindset becomes, okay, we can't let this. It'll. Hopefully, the mindset is it'll become a part of their identity soon. But let's get them feeling better first.
Yeah.
So it's just it's one of those things where you have to be patient with it.
All right. So Quincy, for those out there in our audience that go, okay, I get it, Quincy, it's important. You've convinced me. But I'm maybe that person who I hate exercise, or you know what, I don't even think I could run a mile or a quarter of a mile or whatever. What would you say are maybe 1-2 things that they could start? And I'm not going to try to put you on the spot to say it has to be X or Y, but because this person could be living in California and we may never see them type thing. What would be something you could say that you would encourage them to get started on that path of an exercise program, getting back into that, or getting into it for the first time?
Getting into it for the first time. If you're the type that who hates exercise, then we need to take that away. Don't exercise. Do something that's fun. Do something that's active. Do something that you may not consider exercise. So if you hate cardio but you love dancing, then I would try to find a place where you can go dance a little bit, maybe 2-3 times a week. Videos, there's different types of videos where you can go do that. There's sports activities. You can do any of those things. But it's all about how you shape it. You don't have to work out. You just have to get moving. And if you can get moving to where you're breaking some sort of sweat and you're doing it on something that you enjoy, especially if you don't like exercise, then that's going to lead into it's going to lead to the next step where you'll see those results and you'll be proud of those results. And it's, hey, what's the Diderot effect? I think it's called, where one thing happens, you change one thing, and now you see it's a great change, and now you have to start changing other things around you, And so that's typically what happens. You just need a little bit of momentum in that regard. And once you get the momentum, you can see your mindset takes
Go back to the beginning.
It does the rest. It takes care of everything else. Or you can give me a call.
and we are going to give you Quincy's information, by the way, so that if you want to talk to him about anything that you heard on the show or anything that he might be able to help you with further, we'll definitely do that. But Jeff, go ahead.
All right. So I think this is the longest that Eric and I have done a podcast where music didn't come up.
Yay.
That just happens. We both are bass players and have a love of all different kinds of music.
I did not know that.
I'm sitting here with my head down, looking down at my notes, and I'm going, I have not told Quincy.
No, you haven't. I need that.
There's a secret. There's a secret.
And Eric and I both have a lot of admiration and respect for the late Neil Peart, the drummer from Rush, who I'll argue anybody that if he's not in the top 2 or 3, you're wrong.
Yeah. Oh,
sorry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Convince me. But that's what he was.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not who he was.
Right.
Because he had so many other things. He was an author, and he did not identify just with being one of the greatest rock drummers in, a really, really good band. What I see happen to people is when they have that identity, what you were talking about, this is who I want people to think I am, or however you want to say that. When that is taken away from them, I'm of the age now where serious retirement is something to think about, and I see people 65, 66, before 70, they retire from what they've done all their life, and they just waste away because they identified with just that, and they don't replace it with something. How important it is like you, I know you do some stuff with music. How important it is to find something like that to, continue what you're doing.
I think that is one of the most critical pieces. So there's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot. First, there's a Netflix series. I don't know if you've seen it, and it talks about it's a recent one. It talks about the best drummers.
Okay.
And he's everyone was saying that he's one of the best, top 3 for sure. So
I'm gonna have to.
You have to look that up.
My wife's gonna hate you for that, because when I find it, that's all it's gonna be.
That's all it's gonna be. You guys do another podcast just with that. But I think it's important because obviously you guys know I love music. It's like breathing, and I think it is important because just as much as I love what I do in the health and fitness space, I equally love what I do in the music space too, and it's an outlet. I try not to attach myself too much to it because I do use it as an outlet. So when things with fitness can be a little stressful, I go straight to music. It's always playing always. My partner will tell you I'm kind of obsessed with it. If it's not playing in any house, what is going on here? Why are we not having music on? Yes. But it doesn't have to be music, but I do feel like it is important to have something else that you can go to in order to have an outlet. If you cling on to one idea or one belief for too long, and nothing is nothing is permanent. Everything changes, everything evolves. So I feel if you can have something that you can go to, but not only just that, but being able to learn a new skill. We talk about the neuroplasticity of the brain and being able to connect those things. Those are all great resources to have that. But I've seen people, and I've been talking about, we talked about General Motors, people who do the thing that they do 30, 40, 50 years, and then retirement is done. Then there's nothing going on. I'd be willing to bet that there are so many different things that anybody who is close to retirement, or maybe thinks that, okay, I'm an artist, that's what I do. Well, you may be an artist, but have you explored this, or have you explored that? There's so many different things, and if you don't, that's how you grow, basically. If you can let go of the attachment to who you think you are, your perception is, then that's where the growth starts.
And I think this also, it's almost a fair warning for everybody out there. Your culture that we live in, at least in the United States, is one that really tries to box people in. Mm-hmm. It tries to define you and tell you that you must do this in order to do this, and you must think like this. And Jeff mentions about retirement, and this has gotten me in trouble in certain sectors of my family where I go, retirement is a myth.
Yeah.
And it was, and it quite frankly, it was probably created by Wall Street. And you have enough marketing behind it, you have enough messaging behind it, mm-hmm. that people will live their entire lives to get to this place that Wall Street has said, yep, you will find this pot of gold, and then you can retire to Florida and play golf all the time.
Right.
That's a myth.
That's a myth. Yeah.
It's a myth. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I get it. I know some people have lived out that story, but to say that is representative, especially in a world that has been turned upside down, as it has.
Yes.
Why would you want to even pursue that?
Right. And I feel like that isn't, I don't know. We're all different. Some people
exactly. Totally.
Some people are looking for that, but me personally, like when I think of retirement, I don't think of retirement as stopping. I think of it as the next step. Okay, what's the next venture?
It's a freedom.
It is. Yeah, it's and the gem, and the real gem is being able to figure that out now. What you're
Before
doing right.
You comes knocking on your door.
Correct.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I feel I'm very blessed and fortunate to be in a space where, I'm 42 years old, but I don't even fathom retirement now.
And to what you're saying there, Quincy, and Jeff, you may have alluded to it as well. This idea is, we come back to like you as a trainer, this exercise thing. For the life of me, it would seem to me like you'd want to be in the best shape of your life as you enter into retirement,
mm-hmm.
so that what you do after that is sustained
mm-hmm.
on, whether that's you retire and you become a volunteer for the Salvation Army or for, Make-A-Wish Foundation, or if it's the next venture or whatever it may be. And I've got family members where I go, you are killing yourself now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what kind of shape are you going to be in when it's quote on time to have freedom?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So I guess that's one way for me to plug. This is why we should all be exercising.
And you're absolutely right. And all just what we talked about today, when we talk about it being a part of your identity, if you can put that in there or work to build that is the better term. Work to build that as part of your identity. Then everything else in your life will start to shape. You're living your purpose, basically.
Yeah. And you know what, Quincy? You know what it reminds me of? You ever seen those visuals where you touch a color and then the color just starts spreading?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, that's what comes to my mind when you said that. I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, but that's right. I mean, you're living your purpose, and when those things they're all connected, right? So I would encourage everyone, if exercise isn't in your, I like to say big three, but you can say top five. If it's not in your top five, find different ways, or even look at your top five right now and figure out some things. Well, maybe I spend too much time here. Maybe maybe I can plug 20 minutes a day for exercise. 20 minutes may be too much in the morning. I can give it 10 minutes in the morning and maybe 10 minutes around 1 o'clock or whatever the case may be, you know?
That's awesome.
So once you can start doing those things, so once retirement comes, it's like we said, it's just it's the next steps. Your body is ready for it, for the next step.
Oh.
So you only get one. You only get one.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. All right. So this is a two-parter. I'd like you to tell the audience what is something you're working on currently that you'd want them to know about. And then if we do have an audience member that maybe wants to reach out to you directly, obviously we'll put your information in the show notes. But why don't you tell us about what are you working on right now that's got you really excited that you'd want the audience to know about?
Well, I'm in the there's a lot that I'm working on.
Of course.
But I'm trying to tie everything together. So right now I have a YouTube channel that it's basically an exercise library. So if anyone who is looking to get in shape, you can head to my YouTube channel. It's Quincy Williams. And basically what you'll find are basic exercises stemming from bodyweight exercises, dumbbells, TRX suspension trainer, which we didn't get into that.
And
but
it's
it's
at some point because we've got some.
Yeah, there's a lot with that. So, but the YouTube channel basically consists of that. If you're looking for different exercises that you can do, proper ways to modify and progress the exercises, they'll be right there. And it'll be linked to my website, which is qfitnesstraining.com. And also linked to my website is TRX, where you can find me and have any type of TRX training that you want. You can go straight to their website. I'm one of the featured trainers there. And you can book sessions there. You can also find me on IG at Q Fitness Training.
But Quincy, what about that 6-week challenge thing that we've talked about?
Oh, yes, the 6-week challenge. So the 6-week challenge, basically, it's kind of what we were talking about today. It's a challenge in regards to your mindset and how you can relate your mindset to your body. So the challenge basically is you'll come up with your own goal, and I'll help you decipher that goal to make it more realistic, make it more attainable, just to make sure that it's something that you can do within the next 6 weeks. So the goal is not only to hit your goal, but to springboard you into a more healthy lifestyle and more emotional awareness to where you are in terms of your health and fitness.
And I will tell you, audience, I have gained a lot from Quincy, certainly personally, and that probably is coming out, but just in his advice for me as it relates to my health. And we were talking about this last week, Quincy, I don't know if you remember, is that I was rehashing the conversation we had about hamstrings. Right?
Yes, yeah.
And you kind of gave me, well, you know what you might want to try is this, and that could be the reason you're having issues with your low back. So I go and I start doing that, and call it serendipity. I hear this other trainer who I respect a lot says, well, if you're having issues with your low back, it could be your hamstrings, and basically repeated back to me the exact same advice you gave me. So I'm just telling everyone, I'm a living, breathing testimonial. Quincy, I can't thank you enough for coming on, man. We've just thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yes.
And
always a pleasure talking to you guys.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Considering the time frame, as I have said before, we will have you back again for a part 2, because there are some other things I do want to get into, but as things go, and as we know, there's only so much time. So with that, again, thanks for joining us. Audience, thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you and being with you the next time. Take care. Hi, everyone. This is Eric Pennington with The Spirit of EQ. I'm not introducing a new episode today. I'm here to tell you some things that might help you. Jeff, you're with me as always. So
Yes.
How do people get in touch with us?
Well, the best way is just send us an email at info@spiritofeq.com.
That's awesome. Jeff, I was also thinking about reviews, and I'm notoriously bad at asking for them. So reviews on all of the platforms, wherever you get your podcasts.
Yes.
Do you think that'd be good?
I think that would be great because, one, that will help us learn how to make better ones. And it's always good for us
So
to hear.
we're not the perfect podcast hosts?
We're close.
Okay, all right, but
not,
still,
not totally
we want your
perfect.
feedback. We want your feedback.
But it also might let us know a new subject. Hey, we need to dig deeper into that.
Yeah.
So let us know what you think.
Cool. We really appreciate that. As always, too, there is social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, and we also have a YouTube channel. Those also have mechanisms or options for you to be able to leave a comment, a like, or those kind of things. Just want to make sure that you know how to get in touch with us. Right, Jeff?
Right. We appreciate you all.
Thank you.